Let's start with kind of what was leading both newses tonight, I think, and that is the OCR, and also what 3 News did quite well is to then say, what does this mean for the cost of living? So there's sort of 2 stories in one here, which we'll have a look at. There's actually more than that because it goes 8.5 minutes. We're just going to watch the first part of it. And then we'll bring you some analysis from Craig Rennie. We're stealing a little bit of analysis from his Thursday morning show, so you get a bit of a sneak peek.
The Reserve Bank has hit the pause button, keeping the official cash rate at 3.25%. It ends a run of 6 consecutive cuts to the benchmark lending rate, with the central bank today citing concerns about global uncertainty and rising inflation. As political correspondent Zane Small reports, the cost of living continues to bite despite lower interest rates, and the government is under pressure to deliver relief.
1, 2, 3, 4.
Were you at this one as well? Because it seems that you're.
I do not believe that I am.
Okay, just checking.
Union members of the government's drug buying agency Pharmac protesting today in Wellington over a 0.2% pay offer.
The pay offer is
Fucking
totally
0.2.
The hard work that they do, it's just...
What is that?
Just say
0.2%.
no pay rise. That, like 0.2 is worse than nothing.
So $70,000 times 0.2. So times 0.2 equals. No, that's not right. Oh, no, because it's a percentage. Sorry, so it's 70,000. This is me doing maths. I was doing it times, so it'll be 0.002 because that's the percentage. It's $140
A year.
Yeah.
$147 a year.
Yeah.
So like half a grocery shop for a family of 2 or 3.
Yeah.
Wow.
People are saying 700
Fuck
a year.
that. I burned the place down.
So maybe my maths is out. But even so, but someone said 700 a year. 700 a year will be 1%, wouldn't it, of 70,000? Yeah, work it out that way. 70,000, 10% would be 7,000. So therefore 1% would be 700. Yeah. So a fifth of 700. Yeah. So 140-ish, 150, 180 a year, $3 a week. Well done. And they fought for that so hard and so long, Chewie, and they got their $3 a week. They should be grateful. They should be.
just, insulting what they have put up, and the callbacks to their step system, which, leaves them worse off, in years to come.
The union says Pharmac is underfunded by the government and workers are paying the price. The cost of living continuing to bite as inflation ticks up again.
Their pay rates have not kept up with the cost of living, and that's what we're here to, that's what we've been trying to negotiate, a decent cost of living increase.
New Zealand has been in a significant deficit. We've taken on a huge amount of debt.
Interesting that she says this, right? Well, we agree. We've taken on a huge amount of debt. Do you know what she didn't say? She didn't say that we be due to the previous government. It's almost like she's owning it now. I don't know why she doesn't say what she normally says. It should be wrong, but all she says was taking on a huge amount of debt. And remember, last budget, they weren't borrowing for anything.
Yeah.
So I don't know whether she missed her regular due to the financial decision made from the last government or not, but she just says a huge amount of debt. And it's like, that's true. You have.
You did.
What
that.
am I missing here? Hang on. This feels like it's 4D chess all of a sudden. You're like going, and she's about to come for the kill, but it doesn't ever seem to come.
Has been in a significant deficit. We've taken on a huge amount of debt, and like many employers, we're now in a situation where we need to be careful about the pay increases that we offer.
The rising cost of living, part of the Reserve Bank's decision today to keep the official cash rate at 3.25%, following 6 consecutive cuts that led to lower mortgage interest rates.
I think we're getting towards the bottom of the interest rate cycle. So for people who have been banking on very large further reductions in interest rates, I think there's a risk that they could be disappointed.
The Reserve Bank today cited concerns about rising price inflation and uncertainty in the global outlook. But there is still significant spare capacity in the New Zealand economy. So subject to inflation pressures easing, The central bank is projecting another cut to the benchmark lending rate in August. Westpac research shows that average household incomes after tax have stagnated, with softness in the job market. And while income growth has stalled, inflation is picking up again. Food prices, for example, increased 4.4% in the 12 months to May.
The government does absolutely not.
So food's increased 4.4% and they're being offered a 0.2% pay increase. Just think about that. I mean, at the very least, if your pay increase is not what inflation is, at the very least, you're going backwards. So if inflation's 2 point, whatever they said, 2.6, 2.8, and they're offering you 0.2, then you are real world going way backwards.
Yeah.
Addressing the cost of living crisis.
Are you confident that you've done enough to meet your promise of reducing pressure on the cost of living?
I remain concerned about the cost of living. It's a driving objective for this government to address it, and we know that that will continue to take time.
Right now, we are still seeing a lot of pressure on a lot of households' balance sheet. Income growth has been very sluggish for about a year now. But I think we are starting to see signs that things are picking up, especially in parts of the country that are closely linked to.
It's a very interesting analysis because I'm about to show you a graph from the graph master Craig Rennie, and that's not what the economy is showing. It's not showing that that it's picking up. And I'll give you the receipts shortly.
Our rural sector, especially the dairying sector.
And I am seeing signs of growth across our economy, which is good news for households, businesses, communities who need that relief and need the positive effects that growth brings in terms of income relief and cost of living relief.
Just what these protesters are waiting for.
Well, OK, Zane, how is the government planning to ease the cost of living?
Yeah, there we go. Listen to this bit.
Well, on food prices, the Finance Minister said she'll soon be meeting with the Chief Executive of Fonterra to get an understanding of why the price of dairy products like butter, for example, are so high. Dairy prices are largely driven by export demand, and right now there is a lot of demand for New Zealand dairy products.
I'm pretty sure the One News report on this said they actually had commentary from her saying why you can see cheaper Fonterra products in Australia or the UK, which is what we've been saying for a long time. And we have a solution for that. So I hope you people out there who know Nikki No Boats personally, and there's a lot of you, have been passing on our suggestion. If you've forgotten what that is, we'll tell you at the end of the item.
Overseas, so prices have gone up. But Nicola Willis says she wants to get an understanding of whether there are other reasons behind it, such as lack of supermarket competition.
Greed. Just another, greed.
She said she also wants to find out why dairy prices in New Zealand are often more expensive than in other parts of the world. It's also worth noting that despite lots of interest rate cuts, not all mortgage holders have yet refixed onto lower rates. I'm told that close to half of all fixed mortgages are up for refixing in the next 6 months. So the Finance Minister says that should bring some cost of living relief.
All right. So this is the idea that we've been bouncing around here on the show to do with Fonterra. Any business. And look, Labour, Greens, Te Pāti Māori, if you're listening, you're welcome to steal it. If you're a company that exports more than you sell inside New Zealand, then there should be a price freeze, price set for New Zealand goods. And it's simply because you, Fonterra, there's no such thing as a self-made man. That's a nonsense statement. There is no such thing as a self-made company. You drive on the roads that we all supply. You use the health system that we all pay for. You went to the schools that we all paid for. One of the reasons you can be a successful farmer or business person or Fonterra company is based on the public money that this country has put into you over the ages. Apologies about the camera. I was doing this afternoon. I'm not sure what's going on. And so I think that should be, you are as successful as you are in part because of the investment of this country through our finances. We should be somewhat like a shareholder and we should see something back for that. I think that's quite a fair position. Yeah. I'm not saying run at a loss. I'm not saying even break even, but we are in part shareholders to your success. And I think we need to see an upside for that, especially an upside compared to an international port where your product literally lands and then gets moved around on streets other people have paid for and goes into those supermarkets that keep the profits in other communities. That's all I would say, Chewie.
Like there's lots of she's having a meeting with Fonterra. That's one aspect. Like it seems to me grossly unfair that New Zealand is paying export prices
Yeah, of
and
course.
paying more than what is commonly seen, regularly seen in other markets. Is she talking to the supermarkets? Is she putting pressure on the supermarket duopoly in this country and saying, hey, look, we need to take some heat out of the cost of living, and food is what's doing it. And you guys are turning off a massive profit.
Yeah.
And you either need to do something or the government will. Now, of course, they won't do that because they believe in the free market. But the free market is fucking us over, and it's putting pressure on them. They can't get away with the 0.02% or 2% pay increases. That won't fly. That is just a short jump from taking their slogan from the last election, let's get New Zealand back on track, to let's take New Zealand's pay backwards. Because that's what they're doing. If companies can't keep up with this, or the public sector can't keep up with this, then we are all going backwards. Supermarkets still getting enormous profits. Fonterra, enormous profits. So something's not working.
There's also, and it probably would be different in the dairy sector, because probably a litre of milk in New Zealand is exactly the same as a litre of milk in Australia. But I remember when people used to come visiting from Australia, they'd go into our supermarkets and they'd get the kiwi fruit or something like that, and they were like, "Man, this is pretty average quality product."
Yeah.
And that's because actually what we have on our shelves isn't the A's, it's not the exports.
The rejects.
It's actually already the second grade. So when you go places that sell second grade fruit, you're actually getting third grade, because first grade is international, second grade is what's on our shelves, and then third grade is what suppliers call second grade. And I don't know if it's the same with dairy, probably not, because an ice cream carton in New Zealand is probably the same as an ice cream carton in Sydney, but interesting to figure out if it is or isn't, just to make sure.
I mean, I'm really interested from a business point of view whether Fonterra could do something like, okay, we need to reserve a portion of what we make for the domestic market, and we're just going to fix the price, and that's just the cost of doing business. Overseas can look after itself, because this is something that turns the public against farmers. Like, you can't talk about a $10 block of butter or a $20 tray of just standard mints and then hear stories about, the milk solid prices are great, the farmers are really happy, Fonterra's dishing out the dividends. It just won't math.
Well, maybe it's a bit of both. Maybe we need to figure out breaking up this duopoly. And look, I mean, I don't have the answer or the formula, but I think that we just pulled this out of thin air a few weeks ago. This idea that if you are making more money from exports in New Zealand, then you can subsidise in New Zealand. I'm not saying run at a loss, nothing like that. I'm saying, but you can subsidise and you can pay back the investment that this country has put in you and your company by maybe not needing to get export prices out of beneficiaries in New Zealand. Maybe that's why they don't have the $18 block of butter anymore. Maybe that, I don't think that's too big of an ask. There's another part of this conversation which we definitely want to highlight, and we are going to do that now. And that's actually what we have been looking at. I mean, I think it's fair to say that Nicola Willis, she wasn't quite crowing from the rooftops, but she did say that there were signs of growth across the economy. So what Craig has done as part of his episode this Thursday is he's got a graph to talk about what the Reserve Bank and Treasury saying about what's to come. And it appears, I'm going to use the wrong lingo because I'm dumb, but it appears we already have gone into a period of contraction. So right now, the economy is contracting. So when she says she sees signs of growth, right now, we're contracting. Have a listen to this 90 seconds.
The Reserve Bank this week decided to hold interest rates where they are, despite a stalling economy and higher unemployment. Now, why did it do that? Essentially, the bank is a bit worried that inflation's a bit high at the moment, 2.6%. It seems to be heading higher. Food price inflation is 4.4%. And so therefore, cutting interest rates might lead to higher inflation in the future, despite the fact the economy isn't growing so well. So we're all going to suffer because that laser-like focus on the cost of living has unfortunately failed to go to Specsavers. Now, secondly, the Reserve Bank has also forecast that the economy is now contracting again. And as you can see from this chart, the bank puts out an estimate of current GDP conditions, and this week it tipped over into the red. Now, it's been on the slide for a few weeks, but this is the first.
So let's just have a look at this in general, right? So basically, April, start of May, the first half, about the first quarter of May, since the first quarter of May, bar one very small time, we've been ticking down the whole time. Remember, this is the Reserve Bank. This is not Craig Rennie Esquire. This is the Reserve Bank, and it's also what Treasury is saying the same thing. So if you look at this graph, and I'm a moron, so listen to Craig's podcast with Clint Smith on Thursday morning, but what I see is not necessarily, some shoots of growth out there. What I see is an economy slowly going backwards and now finally moving into a negatively geared economy. And that's what I guess Craig's warning is as part of his podcast on Thursday.
Into the red. Now, it's been on the slide for a few weeks, but this is the first time the Reserve Bank's forecast is suggesting that we could be heading back into an economic downturn, if not a recession. A recession is 2 quarters of negative economic growth, but this is the first time the Reserve Bank is now forecasting that we're contracting again as an economy. And just to make sure it's not the Reserve Bank, the Treasury also put out a note this week saying economic momentum is showing signs of easing in the June quarter, with indicators suggesting many households and businesses are facing challenging conditions. So both the Reserve Bank and the Treasury, the two best forecasters of the economy in the country, are showing there's real challenges in the economy, and the economy is really struggling at the moment.
So there you go. The Reserve Bank and Treasury are saying that the economy is really struggling at the moment. Nikki Noboach is saying there's signs of growth across the economy. So, I mean, the thing is, this is what politicians do. She might be speaking truthfully, signs of growth across the economy. Maybe in a sector within the economy, things are really picking up. But if you look at the whole economy, Reserve Bank, Treasury saying it's struggling, we're now contracting, and we could be heading towards another recession. And it's really important that when Craig puts out these podcasts and stuff with this kind of information that this government is not telling us, we then get it and we share it around. And that's going to be Thursday morning's podcast. Chewie.
Nice. Look, I think it's pretty clear that we are heading for a recession. And I think there's only so much poo-pooing that Nikki could do about the fact that she's finance minister, and we're just going where the wind blows us. What's good for the goose is good for the gander.
There was an interesting comment, and I'm paraphrasing because I was there for the podcast between him and Clint Smith, and I think Clint said something about, one of them said something about, they were talking about Family Boost and how Family Boost is a nightmare. You know, it's so difficult. It's like, and when I heard them say this, I was thinking about the whole economy. It's like, the reason they're rejigging Family Boost is they need it to work. So they're not now in a point where they're doing something to make it better or to help people. They just need to have it work. That seems to be the focus. They need to be able to focus on one part of the economy and make it work. Or else again, they've got fodder to be used against them, sort of thing. So if their focus now in all these decisions is how do we save face, I just don't think that's a very good place to start with policy making for legislation. How do we come out of this looking good, as opposed to how do the public come out of this being better, feeling better, but not just feeling either. I don't care about feeling better, being better. Not feeling safer, being safer. Not feeling like we've got more money, but having more money. And it's really important not to let them say the feeling of the country is like, I don't give a fuck about the feeling. I want the tangible way to measure these policies and these legislations they're bringing in.